And last but not least, let's talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, aka
Sure.
We Are Groot Volume 3, right? So yeah, when it comes to this show here that we've done, well, BSB to BD, I should say, yeah, we covered the second film back in 2017, and we did mention our thoughts on the first film, right? So for me, because I actually recap both films in preparation for this one, of course, and I would say you kind of have to, unless you're just a Guardians nerd and you just remember every single thing about every single, moment that happened in both those films, right? Um, the first one from 2014 still remains one of my all-time favorite MCU films, right? It was just so delightfully different. It was just so distinct from what we've gotten so far in the MCU, which wasn't that much, but still, just the mere fact that it just wanted to be its own thing, tell its own story, it was great, right? And, just the comparison to Star Wars makes a lot of sense. Because, yeah, Star Wars kind of just came out of nowhere. It just sort of introduced people to a new world, a new universe. And, yeah, it just charmed the hell out of all of us, right? And that's exactly what this film did, right? The second film, um, I do appreciate and watching over again, I do enjoy a bit more, but I still think that it is a step down, not a major step down, right? But a
Right.
step down from what we got for the first one. Reason being is just I felt, and this is what I'll bring up in my review of this film here, James Gunn himself, spinning a lot of plates. He's doing a lot in this in that sequel to the point that I felt like structurally it was just a little all over the place. He does the second part of a trilogy thing where he takes our favorite characters who are established as a group and splits them now and sends them off on their separate adventures. But I just felt like, like the main adventure, like we had to wait a while for the main adventure to really kick off. And that was basically, involving Star-Lord and his dad Ego, right? Played by Kurt Russell, right? We were waiting for the reveal. And then when the reveal hit, it was like, oh shit. Now the
Right.
story really pick up, from there, right? And that's where everything kind of had to come together, for the third act, which I, honestly think is so spectacular and so excellent in my opinion, though. Just the beats really landed, for the most part. Even right down to Yondu, a character who was
Yeah.
pretty much an asshole in the first one. Yeah, we kind of gave a shit about it, right? Especially when he sacrificed his life to save Peter Quill, right? AKA Star-Lord, right? Um, so while the destination was absolutely worth it, I felt the journey just kind of was bumpy. It just kind of took a while to get to the point of things, right? But I did admire, again, just the spinning of the plates. Just James Gunn sticking to his guns and pretty much, sticking to his guns, right? I pretty much just let everybody know, yes, I'm gonna get as weird as I can with this, because this is my attempt at me doing sort of a circa 70s, 80s, destined to be a cult classic, sci-fi film, right? So yes, I'm gonna throw weird visuals and, set pieces at you. I'm gonna throw, quirky humor at you and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, even if it may feel overwhelming, right? And I have to say the same thing with this one here. There's still a point to it. There's still a meaning to all of this. There's still going to be hearted, and at the end of the day, or when the movie ends, believe me, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it when it all comes together, right? But it could really feel overwhelming, when, in the journey itself, right? Um, and then, of course, there was, Infinity War and Endgame, Avengers, Infinity War and Endgame, which involved the Guardians, right? And, their temporary, union with Thor, which pretty much ended with Thor, Love and Thunder. Well, if you saw that film, you saw how that played out, right? And I'm going to talk about the gap of time between this, well, part two and three, right? Because I feel this is kind of, one of the show's major disadvantages to just the length of time between films, right? And just these, I don't want to call them filler films, but yeah, these three films that kind of had to tell us, yeah, this is what happened to Peter and everybody else, right? Just kind of filling up time before we actually got a third, the actual closing chapter to this trilogy, right? But yeah, Ricardo, if you don't mind, I want you to do the synopsis for the third one. But yeah, if you don't mind, you just sort of run through just more or less your thoughts looking back on the first two films. Like, how do you feel? Do you still feel the same way about those two films, or pretty much like, yeah, they're fine for what they are?
Oh no, yeah. I love the first Guardians. I, it's a movie that I remember a lot of people being skeptical of, going into it. A lot of people thought this would have been a big issue for them, and it's a sort of drama. But I remember just loving it a lot. Didn't think it would have been. A lot of people at the time, thought it would have been like real trash or whatever it is. But to me, this was I find the first Guardians, in my humble opinion, was the tipping point of the MCU. If they could have make Tree and a talking raccoon work, there was no looking back. They couldn't make it as it is for what it was now. Like at the time, a lot of people were super skeptical of that first Guardians. At least that's what I remember. I remember the prevailing wisdom at the time was, way this so silly, and it had to be super serious business about it and whatnot, and uh you know it was a hard sell, I think, for a lot of people. At least that's what the prevailing wisdom, because everybody thought it would have a big Nolanized approach to the comic book films, and you couldn't do this kind of sincere, kind of on your sleeve emotional stuff. That won't work. You need to be dark and serious business, and that's why, at least at the time, a lot of people seem to have been arguing for it. But then it came out and blew everybody away, and it was a kind of, for lack of a better term, a kind of a hope punk kind of thing of, it's okay to be imperfect, and about found family and whatnot. And it ended up just being a massive, massive success. Yeah, and I loved our first Guardians. It's exactly what it needed to be. And yeah, James Gunn was excellent. The second Guardians, I don't love as much. And I think my problem with it is I felt the emotional stuff is strong, but the plotting was a little on the clumsy end of things. I felt it didn't tie together particularly well. Like,
Agreed.
I
Yeah.
can give a couple of examples, mostly with Mantis, and when they find out when Ego was doing what, and I felt that could have come together a little better. But that was about it.
Mm.
It's still a solid film for me. A lot of people love it, and I understand why they love it. But I'm not one of those. But it's still pretty damn good. Yeah, and then we could talk about this one. Going into this one, this was, look, I just going to straight up say it is. I think this one is the best of the three. In my opinion.
All right,
I
I have to give that more thought though, because right now
Right,
it's up there with one boy, but I feel like if I have to
right.
watch it over again for me to make my opinion, which is better of the two. But I agree
Yeah,
with
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do like this one more than thing. Yeah, I big this joke already, but yeah, James Gunn give us a Super Metroid complete run, right?
Yeah.
If you get our reference, right? Yeah, I thought this was really good. They well, to get into the synopsis of it, it focuses on Rocket. Rocket gets a very dangerous life injury, and they just can't up and repair him, and they explain why. So they explain, well, how come Rocket is the way he is? Why does he's basically an uplifted animal, right? Why he is, and they explain that he is basically a product of something called OrgoCorp and a person called the High Evolutionary, who, I just gonna straight up say it, is kind of a better Kang than Kang, in my humble opinion.
Totally
I
agree. And we
Yeah,
will talk
yeah,
about that. We will talk about that.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then yeah, we just get to see, basically they just have to explain. They get into this adventure of explaining why they just can't repair Rocket, how to get the information to make sense of why they can't do that, and then we get to basically the origins of Rocket himself, and why he's the way he is, his origins, why he's so cynical, and why he's so kind of seem to be emotionally damaged and whatnot. Yeah, well, they explain all of that, and it works. And they come together with the main story. We get more of Quill. They give us good character stuff with Gamora and with Nebula, Drax, and Mantis. Those three come together. They do a nice. There's a nice emotional arc with the three of them, which really works. And then yeah, they bring in a new character who's kind of like the he's like what Nebula was in the first a little bit. That is about Adam Warlock, which I he in the comics he's basically everybody's kind of talk about Space Jesus. He's effectively Space Jesus
Okay.
in the comics, and I thought he would have been really big in this, but no, he's a kind of a side character. They don't do too much with him. They just connect him to the High Evolutionary and why he is the way he is. And I
Mm.
forget the character's name, but she's basically the head of his mom, effectively.
Right, right. Who we saw in the last film? She was the one
Right,
who
she
was
was in the last film,
chasing
right? That's
the Guardians
Elizabeth.
because of some stolen batteries, which ironically is what Rocket stole, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so is the Elizabeth Debicki? That's trying to read the actress name. Yeah.
Oh,
But
that's
yeah.
her. Right. Yes, yes, you're
Yeah.
right. Mhm.
Yeah. So they come together. Will Poulter as Adam Warlock. They do a whole thing with him. It's a pretty funny beat, but he's nowhere near as important as I thought he would have been. And I kind of, to be honest, I kind of glad they did that. Yeah, because in the comics, he's straight up. They have a lot of. He's straight up Space Jesus. Like they straight up do a lot of allegories. Like it have a comic that he gets crucified in. Like straight up, like
Wait,
they
what?
totally understand. Yeah.
Okay, that's weird though, cause I
Yeah,
know nothing about this character even when he was
right.
brought up in the post-credit scene of the second film.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, no, he's a super. He kind of he was important and he kind of was forgotten, and he becomes very relevant to the Infinity War storyline Thanos thing. That's why I thought they would have done something like that with a character in thing, kind of like what Silver Surfer, or they had Silver Surfer's arc transfer to Hulk. I thought they
Hmm.
was gonna do that to another character in thing, but we didn't get that, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. But yeah, yeah, we get our big conceit, and then we focus on just the idea of perfection, what it is to be, you know, the idea of found family, and they really expand the found family concept in this. And yeah, we got actually a nice little emotional subplot involving a dog and James Gunn's brother, right? It works.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, yeah, I just gonna I really enjoyed this movie. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much. The one sticking point about this, and again, it's hard to not compare to Ant-Man, is just how polished everything felt, how finished everything felt. Those effects look great. There's just everything just felt just took care of it. It didn't feel slapdash and rushed. It just really worked. And then they had a lot of similar aesthetical conceits. That one of the things I complain about Ant-Man is that it didn't have a unique look. And then this utilized the exact same thing, a very similar conceit, I should say, a similar aesthetical approach and idea in this, and it works so much better, which is the whole organic tissue stuff, right? In Ant-Man, it had that for some reason, but in this, they did it and it made it work way better in terms of controls and this kind of thing. That's the whole sequence with Orgo Corp. That's all I'll say. Um, that's about it to mention. I mean, just the last point. Yeah, the High Evolutionary is a bastard. They really didn't worry to like try to make him sympathetic or anything like that. Like they had a couple hints that he might have had some kind of existential break at some point or anything like that. But by the time we meet him, he long past the moral event horizon, and they just sell that conceit of yeah, this guy's a bad guy straight up. He's a villain. He's great, probably one of the best villains in a long time. Up there with Ego in my humble opinion, because who I consider one of the better villains, to be honest. Right, just as a bastard. He have a beat, but you don't know, they be totally not sympathetic at all. Like, you
Mm.
get kind of why he will turn out like this, but we don't know why. And there's a couple of great lines that just, explains the character perfectly. There's those two
Yes.
lines, I'll mention them later. But yeah, yeah, I thoroughly love this one. It's probably one of the best MCU films, period, for a while. Like in a hot minute, we've just get just a level of quality. And yeah, I was kind of skeptical as whether or not we was gonna get something strong from James Gunn. Given that he have all this on his plate now and he's head of DC section, blah blah blah, and all of this thing. And I was thinking, wait, he kind of gonna half-ass it for this last one. Hell no. Really fantastic. And I was making that kind of joke that he's gonna make this shitty to sabotage Marvel. A little dumb joke, right? But nah. Yeah, I really enjoyed this, especially what it was going for and how it ends up. And it doesn't feel too final, but it is still like it does work as a close off. But you could still get more from this, as it is. Yeah, I thoroughly love this one. Yeah, how are you feeling about this, Matthew?
All right. I feel, pretty much the same way as you, man. I really enjoy this, right? So, just keep it in mind, this is the spoiler-free section. So after I share my thoughts, you'll get to the spoilery stuff, right? But here pretty
Right.
much is just a summary, well, a kind of an elongated summary, if you will, of how I feel, right? But, again, going back to James Gunn himself and what I said earlier on about him spinning plates, right? I felt like, compared to part two, though, this one, he did this so well, man. And
Yeah.
while I was watching this, though, I was just in awe, like literal awe of what this man was able to pull off in just 2 hours and 30 minutes, Dread. Like
Yeah.
he achieved certain things that other directors who work in the MCU tried and couldn't even match. You know what I mean? Case in point, sorry to say, Taika Waititi, Thor: Love and Thunder. That
Right.
kind of vibe. Now where you're trying to blend all these different elements, all these different emotions and whatnot, but you still want to make it feel cohesive, right? I don't know how James does it, but he does this so well, right? There are moments where I'm just watching this, I'm like, again, if somebody else had handled this, like, directing wise or writing wise, it would have been terrible. It would have
Yeah.
fallen flat, right? And speaking of falling flat, right? Because I don't want to be I don't want to be a person to kind of make this a perfect 10 out of 10 and praise this film to high heaven, right? But there are a few jokes, because I mean, yes, despite the dark material, and I have to stress on the term dark material, yeah, I mean, there are jokes in this, of course. You kind of come to expect that in Ghanaians, right? But yeah, some of the jokes kind of didn't really work for me. Some
Right.
just
Okay.
kind of fell flat. Others just kind of ran a little bit too long. But I get why they're there, right? And they really, really help in terms of lightening the tone, right? Because yes, we're really going for a dark tone here, right? What I really do appreciate about this here, it didn't feel like the dark tone. It didn't feel mean spirited. It didn't feel
Yeah.
like, I'm just like angry, you know what I mean? Even though like characters are angry, it's not like the film was trying to like beat us over the head and make us feel a kind of way, make us feel bitter, you know what I mean? That this is the last hurrah for these characters, right? Really what James achieves here is that he literally takes the characters that we've known and loved over the past I would say 9 years pretty much, right?
9 years.
Since,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That
And
while. Yeah.
yeah, and put them through the ringer, like literally put them through the ringer, right? And again, just in awe of James, right? I didn't even expect that he would have put them through much hell, right? Yeah, like pretty much everybody is pushed to their limit though, and I really saw that with Peter Quill though, played
Yeah.
by Chris Pratt. I mean, we could say
Yeah.
what you want about
They
his
do.
acting though, but here
Yes.
this man was pissed off, Dread. And not like,
Yeah. They
I'm
did
pissed off
great.
because it's the last movie and look at what you did, man, which you'll get into the spoiler section. But no, 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 no. Like, this man has been through a lot, right? And what I mean, like, it's not like, this is the third film and something happened here and it triggered it off. No, this is from years of him just sort of like, holding back on his anger, right? Like him trying to deal with his anger, and even though he has a, this family dynamic here, it's still not enough, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
even that and all is pushed his limit in this film. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I thought they did a great double duty with that, right? With him, struggling with what went on with Gomorrah and him not really processing that well.
Yeah.
And
And then
then
with
the
his
aspect,
dad too, like you have to remember that too.
right.
Like like the shit that that's that reveal with his
Well,
dad alone though is like wow,
yeah, yeah,
boy.
they mostly focus on the conceit of. I think the big conceit focus was the whole situation with Thanos, right?
Yes, of course.
Just right. And yeah, but they made it work, and especially with the context of Gomorrah, and this new Gomorrah is like not, she just keep hammering home, like, yeah, I'm not that person, and you can't really get around that, and he just can't process that particularly well, but they make it work, and I can't be mad at any of that for what he was trying to go for and do, and then yeah, Rocket, right? Him just the losing Rocket. That final sequence, that scene's really good. Cause you see it in the trailer, and he's wondering, wait, boy, they have Peter Quill going in thing. With that, but they also hammer it home with just a small moment that I was like, oh yeah, I knew this was supposed to be coming because somebody spoiled it. But I can't remember. I didn't see it, but somebody I think spoiled it online. MCU's first F bomb, right? Uh,
Yes, I was actually
yeah,
surprised though, which we'll talk about in the
yeah.
spoiler section too. Yeah.
Yeah. So all of that was like, oh yeah, okay, they're going. I see what they're going for, and why the big conceit and why that works. And I thoroughly loved it for what it was saying because they made it give Quill, and then what they do at the end with Quill and his arc is like, all right, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it worked for
Yeah,
me too.
yeah,
What they did for the other characters, even though they're not like prominent in the film, right? So that would be like Mantis and Drax and Groot. Yes, we have to mention Groot and even Nebula
right.
and all too. I like that they're given moments to shine to
They were
actually way
right.
more than the second film,
Yeah, the three of
if I'm
them.
honest.
Yeah, it was really about the three of them, like that whole Nebula's usefulness versus their usefulness, and that whole they kind of play on that. They whole like well, I don't know if it's a spoiler, but basically Nebula addresses the whole Mantis and Drax just fucking around a little too much, and they
Yes,
sell
yes. Hmm.
that conceit well. But then in the ending, it flips back around. That's why I liked it because it's something we had in Star Wars Legends, which is the whole usefulness of the useless person kind of idea. And they're flipping it around about perfection and utility and these kind of things. And yeah, they flip that in this as well, right? They made it really work with this. And I thought simple arc, nothing too thing, but just simple. They just
Right,
kept it
right, right.
kept it there and made it work for what it was. I couldn't be mad at any of that.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, few things few, right? Before we get to spoilers, right? Visually, though, this is spectacular. I mean, we've come
Yeah,
to expect that from a Guardians film, though. But I think that here, in this case, James outdid himself here, boy. There are set pieces here where, again, going back to the whole awe part, right? Where I'm just wondering how did this guy, Dredd, with at the height of his powers working in Hollywood, right? How he get this set piece involving, basically like something that looks akin to like human skin, basically, and this
yeah,
is like
yeah.
the just the
It looks
layout
great, eh?
of a particular area. That's all I'll say without spoiling anything, right? Yeah, how he get away with that? You know what I mean? Like that
Yeah,
is some
yeah,
straight up Barbarella kind of shit, right? If you
yeah,
know, you know, right? And I could just go into that, right? Even throughout the series, I could tell, right? Again, just harkening back to like these circa 70s and 80s films, but I should also mention 60s sci-fi as well too. Yeah, you could tell that this is James Gunn. I always kind of mentioned this before when it comes to potential cult classics, right? Where nobody kind of goes out of the way. Usually people wouldn't go out of the way to make a cult film, right? But sometimes some directors want to make a cult classic, something that people always go back to and be like, wow, those visuals, I will always remember those.
yeah,
Those kind of things. I feel like this is what he James achieved with this series here, right? But in particular, this one here, right? Okay, yeah, there are set pieces here. They are just visuals. They are just looks. There's character designs and all that kind of stuff that is so unique though and so strange and batshit crazy
yeah.
and weird. And I'm just there like, how he get away with all of this shit,
Yeah, because
And
they straight up had a part with the part with Nathan Fillion, right?
yes,
Uh,
yes, yeah.
yeah.
I was surprised to see him in this
Who was
too, yeah.
basically he was basically playing his character from The Rookie.
Oh,
But yeah, yeah,
yeah. And you really see that too with Rocket's backstory, right? Now, I
yeah,
will confess though, I felt like while I do appreciate the use of flashback, it almost felt like like almost like a crutch in a sense. Like, okay, while we have all this action going on, let's just stop for a second and let's just show more backstory, right? I'll tell you what I mean, right? So usually when we get to Rocket, right? You usually see him and then the flashback takes place, right? But
yeah,
there's actually a moment where you don't even see him and they just cut to a flashback just because, right?
right,
And I get it, I understand because it's building to the climax, but still it's like, well, you're kind of just using this as this device, like literally like a device. Like I know it's a device, but it feels purposeful in a sense that, it feels like,
right,
okay, we kind of need to do this here because, all right, we need to tell his story as well too, right? So again, with the spinning of the plates, right? But yeah, even those moments with that is so strange though, even by Guardian standards, even by MCU standards. And yet, because of James's hand though, it works, right? So
yeah,
yeah, he will throw a bunch of shit at you, right? I mean shit in a good way, right? But
hmm
still, similar to 2 and similar to 1, there's a heart, there's a meaning to it. It's gonna eventually lead to something really heartfelt and emotional. In this case, it leads to a gut punch, yes, a couple gut
yeah,
punches here or there, but it's the heart that totally works, right? I do agree with you. The High Evolutionary is a bastard, though he's a
yeah,
motherfucker through and
pretty
through,
much.
right? And I made the joke on Facebook. This movie is what Quantumania should have been, right? Try to be, I should say, right? And yeah, I would say that the High Evolutionary, who is played excellently by Chuck Woody Iwuji, right? If you remember him from Peacemaker, yeah, he was
Right.
great in that, right?
Yeah, the
Um,
wife, the girl was from Peacemaker. Well, that James Gunn wife, I think.
okay,
She was
okay,
not.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't
She
know.
was the girl in Orgo Corp.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
yeah,
All right, right, yeah, yeah. He is a bastard, dude. And I will admit though he is really over the top in this one though. But
yeah,
given his character and his warped god complex, it makes a lot of sense, right?
yeah,
But I will admit there are a few moments where he is, I don't want to say hammy, right? But he is kind of overacting at points. Like he's
right.
shouting at you because he is
Yeah,
angry. But I get that
yeah,
is
yeah,
the
yeah.
character, right? But at
Yeah.
points it's just like, all right, just dial it back a little bit though. But I do applaud, James's, decision to say, no, I going all in on this shit. So this shit is over the top. My villain is over the top. The conceits are over the top.
Yeah,
I'm really gonna push the emotion on you, right? And I will admit, watching this, again, the journey and the destination. Yeah, the journey was really overwhelming to me, boy. There were moments where it felt really dark. I was like, I don't know what to make of this, boy. I don't know. It's not too much, right? But I feel like I don't know, but like it really really hit him hard with this boy James. But like, what are you doing? But again, after I admire what he does here, it's done with a steady hand, so it could feel a little too much, but this is really him kind of just saying, trust me. It feels like a lot, but I know what I'm doing, right? And then, well, the
Yeah.
payoff is just absolutely worth it, right? So yes, I'm gonna close my spoiler-free section with this. Yes, this is easily one of the best MCU movies we've gotten in a long while, though. I would say this is up there with Captain America: Civil War as one of my favorite trequels as far as
Right.
MCU
Yeah.
films go, right? And we
Yeah.
don't
So
have
it
a
is. I
lot of
think it.
great
I think it.
trequels actually.
No, I
With
think
with
it's
the,
the
with
best
the
of the
rare
trilogies.
exception of say Civil War and Thor Ragnarok. Yeah, we should mention Thor
Right.
Ragnarok, right? Yeah, as one of those. But this is
Yeah.
up there.
No, yeah, I put this. I put this is the best. In my humble opinion, this is the best of the MCU trilogies overall.
Yes, most
And
definitely. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I don't put this as high as I put it. It's about the same as Thor Ragnarok, about the same. Because I really love Thor Ragnarok, mostly because how it just catch you off guard, how good it was, and where he was going with it.
Exactly. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, but but this was just such a great character beat because well I don't know if we get into spoilers now.
No, well, we're going to. I'll just make
Yeah,
one last point, right? As you mentioned,
yeah,
saying trequels, right? As you mentioned, trilogies. Yes, this is easily the best that we've gotten, right?
yeah.
Even though I love Winter Soldier
Captain America. Yeah.
and Civil War,
Yeah, first Captain America.
the
Yeah,
first Avenger is fine. I don't love it, but
right,
as far as
right.
establishing his character and it feeling like a Saturday matinee show, it works, right? But I'm not
Yeah,
in love with that movie, right? Nor am I in love with Thor. The first Thor, I still defend the Dark World, even though it had a lot of flaws to
no.
it. I love how quick paced it was and whatnot. I know it have a lot of flaws, but I do enjoy the film. But really, where it got its stride was with Ragnarok, right? Unfortunately, kind of dropped the ball with Love and Thunder, even though I don't hate it like
Yeah,
some people do, right? But yeah, easily, the best trilogy that we've gotten in the MCU thus far, right? I guess we could take into account Spider-Man, I guess, kinda, but
no. Yeah,
kinda. It is in the
yeah.
MCU, right? But I'm not
Right.
totally in love with the Spider-Man movies, to be honest. Even though Tom Holland
Yeah.
is great as Spider-Man, right? But whatever, right? But yeah, easily the best trilogy we've gotten so far, right? And now we could get into the spoiler section. So yes, you've been warned.
Right.
Spoiler section, right? So
Right. So Orgo Corp. Orgo Corp is basically Disney, right? Like,
yes.
yeah.
Yes, they will take the people, the people who have who have their heart, who have good intentions and whatnot, and pretty much fuck them up, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could see the analogy there, boy. Yeah, the
Yeah.
moments involving Rocket is are pretty rough though.
Yeah.
But me going in, I make this kind of mental joke in my head. I was kind of thinking. Also, as we in spoiler territory, props for the show starting with the Marvel Studios logo itself. So compared to the first two, we don't get like a little scene before the logo shows up.
Right.
I
Right.
thought it was
Right. Right.
pretty
Right.
interesting as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
But I was honestly expecting some sort of disclaimer, no animals were harmed in the making of this film. Even though I didn't
Yeah.
know what to expect, I was expecting a disclaimer at least though, because I know that there will be a lot of animal lovers in the audience watching this that will be disturbed by what it is they see.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the kind folks at Marvel Studios and Disney don't show you the violence per se, but it is
Right.
heavily suggested, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's
This
some really dark
this
shit.
movie this movie is surprisingly valiant too because like when James Gunn wife now I forget the actress name but she when she gets shooting she leg it was just straight up a gun Jude. Like it's not even- no laser nothing like that.
Yeah,
Just
and even though it's kind of played for laughs though, like she was
yeah.
screaming, she had to just like,
Yeah, for
jeez,
real.
boy,
Yeah,
wow.
they make it much. It was much darker than expected. Like little stuff like that. As I say, well, Nathan Fillion's like role is pretty funny. I get he just played his character from. It's like a mix between his character from Firefly and Thing, but it's basically the rookie character. But yeah, I just think a couple things about this is that what's the spoiler I was wanted to mention, boy. All right, yeah, the ending with the animals. They just deciding to save the animals at the end. So I was keep making the joke, the Super Metroid completion run now, save the animals.
Yeah, yeah.
I was surprised they lean into this idea so well about just a global conceit of well-being. Like it's not just people, but other animals as well. And Rocket whole thing, and then Rocket's arc, and what he calls himself at the end, and it's like, yeah, Rocket Raccoon,
Yes, I
and
love that moment though,
yeah,
like
yeah,
Raccoon, Rocket Raccoon. I love that. Yeah.
yeah.
And
And then
it's how
they
he sees it too, with the sign on the wall, basically,
yeah,
with the race, these different species and whatnot. And so in his
yeah,
case, is a raccoon. I thought that was great because the
yeah.
one running gag is like you're a
Like,
raccoon,
don't
you're
call
a
me a raccoon.
hedgehog. You've seen this from the very beginning of these
Right.
series. That was great. Yeah,
Yeah, always call him something else, squirrel or whatever it is. And
yeah,
then he himself denies he's been a raccoon. So they come to that. They did counter Earth in this, which is straight up from the comic. That is a big higher evolutionary storyline. Yeah, okay, they go with that, but they do a totally different thing with it. And yeah, the end, how that results itself is super disturbing and dark. Um, then they
Yeah.
did the
Well,
two.
sorry, folks, if we go in all over the place, right? But it's just a bunch. Well, we literally saw it once, so there's a lot that we just want to get off our chest. But for sure, I definitely need to watch this over again, right?
Yeah,
Touching on Counter Earth, right? What just going back to James Gunn, and him just loving cult films or whatnot, right? I could tell, right? This had a particularly 80s sort of John Carpenter vibe to it, sort of like a
yeah,
D-Live kind of vibe to it, though, where, it's this seemingly normal community, but once that ship lands, once the Guardian ship land, you realize it's all this, like, animorphed, characters or whatnot. But it's really
yeah,
like, the moment where, Peter is driving to the place, right? To the higher level, evolutionaries, lab, right? Where he's just passing through and he's just seeing, just how society is messed up, right? He's seeing like characters dealing drugs and one guy
yeah.
getting
Like
beat up and
Earth,
whatnot. And it,
basically,
it, it
yeah,
feels very much like, Reagan era kind of, like a critique
right,
of that now. Like it feels like that.
yeah,
And then we'll think about, what time, the era that Peter left Earth, right? It was in the
right,
80s, right? So it's like, okay, I see you, James. I see you,
yeah,
a little social commentary, kind of D-Live kind of vibe. I see you. I like that.
yeah,
What I will admit though is that it just kind of happens in glimpses, right? It's literally them
yeah.
in the car, a song is playing, and you just see glimpses of it, right? And yes, I understand the show is working with time, it's 2.5 hours, but I felt it could have just spent just a little more exploring that society itself, that
Well,
the
I mean,
land.
to me,
What I would say, sorry to cut you there. There was kind of a missed opportunity where they just land at this particular spot and they're talking to this Japanese creature. That's all you call. And I felt
yeah.
that they could have had a moment there, even though it was all about trying to get information. But I felt at that point we could have got an idea of how bad the society is. Just, it's all a bunch of
Well,
weird people at first, but then when you drive in there, when you see the journey, it's like, oh, it's really, really messed up. You see what's
yeah,
going on
no,
there.
the conceit is, yeah, that's the conceit. The conceit is that again, the higher revolutionary, basically, he fail. Like the whole point is that he keep thinking he make a alternate Earth, and he effectively fail at the whole making perfection. No matter what, you can't make perfection. That's the whole point. So that they just kind of
Yeah,
put it straight in
it's the
his face.
architecting from
Exactly.
Matrix. It's that.
Right. A little bit of that. Yeah, exactly. And that's central conceit. But right, so the two things. So the one flaw of the film, not really a flaw, but I felt the music doesn't tie together as well as it could. Like, you see
I'll
how the
talk
first
about
two
the
films are.
music. I'll talk about the
Yeah,
music. Yeah.
yeah. The soundtrack was just kind of not helter skelter, but it was just like, all right, I get what they're going for, but it doesn't really tie as well as it in terms of the beats, and some of those needle drops wasn't as strong as I well. I wish they could have been, to be honest. Um, and then yeah, but so that doesn't tie particularly well, but that's about it. I don't have a problem with that. The High Evolutionary in his arc is great, like what they do with it, and him just being not redeemable. Again, they hint at him maybe being kind of redeemable, but like just stuff like him just using a gun, to kill what's her name, boy, Lila, right?
Yes.
Which what I thought they was gonna do is that he's gonna use the kill switch, because they mentioned a kill switch now, earlier with Rocket's body. So I thought he was gonna use the kill switch on her just to kill her, but no, he used a gun. It's like, all right, wow.
Yeah.
And then yeah, with the whole his whole conceit of the idea of perfection, very similar to Ego, right? Ego wanted to take over, and he don't want to be alone, and it's all about godhood and that kind of stuff. Um, in his case, it was the two lines is that there is no God, and I take his place or something like that, or
Yeah.
I took over from him. That's a
Something
good
along that
line.
line. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what was the line, boy. It's slipping my mind right
And
now.
I
Right?
love the response to that. Right. That's
Yeah.
all I will
What
say.
did you do
Which
with that?
also, yeah, we won't spoil it there, but 'cause it's
Yeah,
a great reveal. I love the response
yeah,
to that line. That was great. Yeah.
right. But the yeah, it's what's the line, Joe? Just slipping my mind. It's oh yeah, yeah. There is no God. That's why I stepped in. Um,
Right.
that's a good line. And then Rocket's observation about him in the end is great as well, which is he didn't want to make things perfect. He just hated the way things are.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. That was
he just
great.
hated right. That's a good conceit about like what it is you're thinking about, and it's a great like conceit for a villain, and it not too far off from the comic version, like in my
Okay.
opinion.
Well,
Yeah, it's
I've
like
never
okay,
seen similar to Adam Warlock. I've never
yeah,
read
yeah,
any comic with that character.
it's it's 70s deep lore stuff. It's 70s comic stuff. It's when that man was puffing a little something.
Yeah, which of
Yeah,
course you could tell James Gunn is paying a lot of
yeah,
tribute to, the
yeah,
psychedelic side of
yeah,
things,
exactly.
when it comes to these
Right, right.
stories. Yeah.
Yeah, and just yeah, again because how polished and visually it look. Well, another thing, a small complaint. This is a minor nitpick. We don't really get much of the original Guardians theme song. That da na
Yeah.
na na
You
na na.
hear
We have a
one
little bit of
point,
that.
yeah, like,
1 point, yes. That is
yeah, I was
when
like, give him more of it,
When
man.
Rocket, yeah, when Rocket ship was crashing in to stop them things. That is
Yes.
when he was hearing it clearly. But we got, dude, in my humble opinion, one of the best fucking action sequences at the end there when they get the classic Guardians outfit.
Yes.
And that fucking sequence is so well done. You know what that remind me
I'm
of?
gonna talk about music, but yeah,
Yeah,
go on.
that sequence with where the big action sequence where it reminded me of the church sequence in Kingsman.
Oh, Kingsman, the first one. Yes,
Yes,
that
yeah, that
long
what that
take
remind
thing.
me of.
Yeah.
Yes, Dread. That was so hard, Dread. That was
I
so well
know,
done, Dread. That
boy.
was like, yeah, boy, die waiters. And
Yeah.
it's a real shame if we don't get more of that in the MCU. But that, you see, that is probably but easily, but I don't know, like probably like easily top five action sequences in the MCU now. Like at this point, it's like what a real hard though. Like
Yeah. What
that's
was
how
another one
well.
that would be up there? I would say the Bucky, Iron Man, and Captain America fight is one.
Right.
Um, to an extent, oh yeah, another pick for me. Just, we'll get back to the spoiler. Sorry, would be the fight scene with Captain America and Bucky and
Right.
Black Widow in Winter
Right.
Soldier. I love
Winter
that
Soldier, right.
sequence. I love that
Yeah, yeah,
sequence so
yeah.
much. Yeah.
But this one was relevant because even the final action sequence in the first Guardians I thought was really solid, like for what it was now. But this was
Yes.
like just a next level of they really like revolved the movie around that. Like it was leading to that, and they really make it work, Dread. Like that this little small moment where Nebula get she body mashed up, but she repaired mid fight to fight. Cause like
Yeah,
yeah, that's the
like
force. Like,
she neck and she arms
yeah,
get twisted, but she's
yeah,
still fighting.
yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
wood,
yeah.
wood.
That was hard. That was real hard. I just say, dog, watching this and like. Yeah, man. Ole Diledi, boy. Ole Diledi. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was props for that.
Again, I am just amazed that James could pull this off, right?
Yeah,
So
it's a well polished everything it felt. That's what I loved about
yes,
this movie.
yes.
Show. Yeah,
Right. So just a touch on music, right? So I noticed the usage of music in it as well, right? And I thought that was really fascinating for me, right? What it feels like it's almost like just going back to the dark tone of the film, right? Where well, how music has worked throughout the series is just like basically a coping mechanism, right? It's like,
yeah,
all right, I kind of don't want to be in this place, I kind of have to do this to survive, or I'm just trying to get by, so I'm just listening to this song, right? So case in point, perfect example, "Come and Get Your Love," right? Which you hear
yeah,
from Redbone, classic song, right? Where you hear in the first film, right? Remember the context of it, it's Star-Lord basically doing a job. He's like basically going to steal this stuff. He doesn't know what's gonna happen, but it's like, yo,
yeah,
I'm on this planet by myself, so let me just put on this song and dance to it, right? And you get that, right? So what I feel here, it's almost like it's a purposeful afterthought. It's just like, all right,
yeah,
I'm really dealing with a lot of shit, so okay, you know what I mean? So like there's a great moment in, for example, where you see Groot, right? And he has to pilot the ship from point A to point B. And
right,
it's just almost like, all right, we go in here, okay. And he puts on a song and it just plays, right? One
right.
thing that they do very well here is, they switch between diegetic and non-diegetic, right? So there's
Yes,
a lot like, yeah,
that's
which I
really
thought was
interesting.
great,
Yeah,
right? Where you're hearing the song, throughout the film,
right, and
but then
they
like
play
about
it.
a
Yeah,
few seconds later, you'll hear it play over some earbuds or some speakers or whatever. I
yeah,
thought that was really great. So again, just the use of music as a coping mechanism. That's how I see it. Just like, all right, we're really, really, really going through hard times right now. Sorry, music really not gonna help me out here, but I could cope with it. It could help ease the pain, right? So
yeah,
it's a temporary fix. That's how I see it, right? But if you notice in the end, or I should say in the climax, that's when you really start to hear music. When they really like get the spirit back, that's when you hear the
yeah.
songs, right?
And
So
the music is playing for everyone. Like it's very
yes,
end and
yes, yes,
dancing. Yeah,
exactly. So speaking of that hallway fight scene, right? It is clear to me that Chris Pratt is a huge Beastie Boys fan, Dread.
Yeah.
because this is the second movie that we've gotten which stars Chris Pratt, which features Beastie Boys' "No Sleep Till Brooklyn." Is that a
Yeah.
coincidence? I think not. I think Chris Pratt is a friggin' Beastie Boys fan, and he wanted
Yeah.
that song in both of those movies, Dred. But the use of that song, well, I mean, I love it in the Super Mario Brothers movie, right? But the
Right.
use of it in this movie, boy, holy shit, right? If you're a Gen Zer and you never heard of the Beastie Boys before, I mean, wow, shame on you all, right? But if this is the first time all they heard this song, thank James Gunn for introducing you all to this, right? But as a huge Beastie Boys fan, I fucks with this moment, though. I love it. I
Yeah.
love the long take of it. I love the energy that they put into it, though. I
Yeah.
love that they play a majority of the song compared to,
Yeah.
the Super Mario Bros. Movie, but whatever. And it's just the timing of it, the camera movements, the energy, just the badassery throughout, though. I love that. Perfect needle drop, right? That was great, right? And yeah, in the end, you actually hear more songs and they feel, they feel organic. They feel like they are part of this world now because they almost felt, again, like afterthoughts because, we dealing with shit, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of the dealing with the shit stuff, right? I felt personally, like I understand, we working with time, right? But, with Peter, introduced pretty much just passed out, right? He drunk himself into stupor, right?
Yeah.
And, I do like, just playing with people's expectations. That is the reason why we get the shot of Nebula, either Nebula or Groot holding him, right? While they're
Right.
walking in slow-mo. I thought that was gonna happen near the end of the film, right? But actually it
Right.
happens in the beginning. It's like, alright, play
But
your emotions. That's cool.
one thing the movie does is that it really had you thinking, well, some or multiple Guardians gonna die.
Will die,
And
yes.
like no one dies, especially the end. I thought, all right, they're finally killing somebody. He was like, "What, they're gonna kill Peter at the end, boy? Really, boy?
Yeah.
Yeah, boy."
Well,
And
I
then
honestly
really
thought I honestly thought that, I think many people go into this thinking that that Rocket was gonna die. But
yeah, listen,
I'll get to that, but
listen,
continue.
they had me on the edge with that scene because it's such a good fucking scene. Like, wow, Jordan. And it's
Yeah.
like, and then when she touched him on the chest and said, not yet, it's like, oh god, that is the day, boy. That was the day.
Yeah.
That great scene. That was the chair moment for me.
Right,
But yeah,
and just speaking of that too, just the characters involved, right? So, we're in spoilers still, right? So yes, it's these, weird, creatures that, were mangled and whatnot and
Yeah.
pretty much, experimented on, right? So yeah, just that moment with him basically, with Rocket seeing the light, right? And seeing that one creature that accepted him into the group first, right? Also
Yeah.
points for incorporating that family dynamic there, right? Where
Yeah.
they are literally a family of misfits, right? It's unfortunately how they die. And it could have turned out, it could have played out in a much more mean-spirited kind of way, where it was just more
Right.
oh, well, they were caught in crossfire. I thought that was really
Yeah,
smart, though, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and it happened off-screen too, so not to worry, Peter lovers and whatnot, Petter lovers, whoever it is, no animals are really harmed, but yeah, characters do die, right? But yeah, that moment, that lighting in the tunnel moment, yeah, really hit me.
Yeah, well.
Surprisingly, I wasn't entirely moved to tears though, but that particular
Right.
moment I was this close, right? But then when
No,
I
the part-
realized,
the part
but
where- the part where
one
Peter-
sec. But when I would say the moment where, yeah, I felt it though was ironically enough when Rocket, was alive, like when he got him,
Oh,
like
yeah, they hear his voice. Yeah.
and just the music
Yeah.
and it's just Peter's reaction, boy. Like when I saw
Yeah.
that, boy, I was just like, I feel that,
Yeah.
that shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
No,
yeah,
yeah. That part was real hard because it's just the part where Peter just saying no and he just not giving up.
yes,
And it's
boy, I
Gamora,
felt
him and
that.
Gamora.
And
Yeah,
Gamora
that makes it
saying,
work.
no, it's too late, it's too late,
Right.
too late, yeah.
And it's like you could tell that is the part with him and Gamora. Like you get a feeling that his Gamora would have never say that shit. No.
Yes,
So
yes.
that is how, like, even that part of say, him making a decision about her and him having to let her go, like all of that was part of it. And then when he get back up now, and then Rocket get back up, and they hearing Rocket's voice for the first time over the comm now. It's like, right, hard.
Yeah,
They
that
make it
was
really-
great, that was
really
great.
make it work.
Yeah.
And yeah, shout out to Bradley Cooper, Dread. He was real fucking good in this too.
Yes,
Like,
the voice acting, boy. Woo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was always, I never liked him as a voice actor, to be honest. Like, I
Okay.
always kind of hated the whole actor being a voice actor thing. Like, to me, it have always had better voice actors who should get bigger roles. Like to me, Kevin Conroy should be in movies and, these kind of things and stuff like that, right? If you're doing the treat, like, I don't know, if it's a industry bullshit thing. But he really stepped up in this thread. He was so good, especially as a young Rocket.
Yeah.
The flashback Rocket. No, I was like, yeah, they really come good with it.
He
come good,
emoted so much though.
Yes,
It's just the
yeah.
emoting that he did, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, few things for you before we get to rating, right? I do appreciate the time spent on fleshing out the other characters, and I would say that this is one of these films where yes, it is the end of a trilogy, so no, we don't have to stop to remind you, oh, this is why Nebula feels the way she does, and this is why Mantis is the way she is. No, it trusts that you know at least remember what happened in the first two films to understand what's going on, right? So I do like that they get their moments to shine. I will admit though, there are a lot of moments of them arguing with each other, especially with Nebula. Like there's a lot of arguments involving Nebula, and I get why Nebula is pissed off, right? I get that, right? But I like that even she and all too is less pissed off here than what we saw in the first two films, right? We always kind of make the joke that I love Karen Gillan, right? But she's always like, me when it comes to her delivery now. I understand why, because of what Thanos did to her, right? But here, she was argumentative, but not as much as all that. I was surprised that that Mantis was pissed off because because she is the character that we kind of laugh at because she's all silly with the impact, all that kind of stuff, right? But yeah, she was pissed off at some point. So I was like, what? Okay, yeah.
No, but the arc they had with her and Mantis and Nebula, the three of them, that whole you taking life too seriously, and you're not as great as what they do there emotionally is good. Like it's solid stuff. In terms of like how to we have a whole culture of super serious people and taking life way too seriously in that way. And I like what they did, especially with what they did with Drax coming full circle with his arc.
Yes.
Because it's something we forget, like, oh yeah, right. Like, that's a thing. Like that they should make that work. As I say.
That would be him losing his daughter, right?
Right. And then in the ending, well, when it references a character, this character was this character by Martha, I think. I think it's Martha they was referencing, but the girl he talked to in the end, and it's like, yeah, how to talk to Churn, like how to solve a problem, what to do with that, and making that conceit of it. But yeah, they really cater to that parenting aspect and what type of I should say evolution as a person you have to take as a different person in the world now. Like how to it's not the same type of problem. So
exactly.
It's a different type of problem solving, right? That kind of stuff now.
But that's just to touch on characters just a little bit more, right? Groot is pretty much Groot. He is still teenage Groot, I should say, but
the ending is great, eh?
Yes,
what did
yes,
with
yes.
That?
And he actually delivered a line at what I think he says.
No.
What is this?
No,
go on.
You said no. You say I love you guys, but that's very clever because I noticed no one reacted to it in an unusual way. It's like, oh, it's for the audience. That's clever. That's very clever what they do there.
Okay.
We hearing Groot for the first time because we're now part of the family. Like I get that.
Oh, okay.
That's how I interpret. At least that's how I interpret that because everybody that's didn't react in any way. It's not like what Groot could speak English. No, he's still speaking Groot. We understand it now for the first time. That's what I think. That's what I think James Gunn is trying to go for.
Right.
Right.
Adam Warlock, I was a little let down in terms of how he was handled, though. Because, well, just to touch on the gap of time between 2 and 3, right? You could really feel it in terms of, okay, well, part 2, way back in 2017, set up this Adam, right? I'll call him Adam, right? See, they're thinking he's going to be the baddie and whatnot, right? But here it's just like, all right, I'll follow my mom's orders, but at the same time, I kind of working for the high evolutionary. Yes, he has his moments to be a dick as well, too. There's one moment where he's supposed to interrogate a guy, pretty much like fry his face off. I was like, holy shit, though. Like, wow.
That was trying to remember to the moment. It's like, yeah, this darker than expected.
Yes, boy. Like I was legit shocked at that. Like,
how dark that was. Yeah.
And, but I kind of laugh at his reaction. That was real dark humor, but the payoff was good, right?
I thought he was really funny. Like Will Poulter was quite funny in this. He had great comedy timing.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny the way how he enters into scenes. So he literally crashes into scenes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I was a little let down by how he ends up turning good in the sense that, once the Guardians land at Counter Earth in that particular town, and High Evolutionary just being an asshole and just saying he just want to wipe the whole planet out. And in the process, that's how Adam's mother dies, right? And now I've seen the error of my ways. It's like, okay. But I don't know. I just expected. I have no problem with him turning good, right? I have no problem with that, right? It's just I felt like him the conflict, which led to him to the circumstance, I should say, where for him actually seeing how bad the High Evolutionary is, was a little rushed in my opinion. It
Okay,
just really
okay, no
happened a little
problem.
too quick, right?
Yeah, I kinda get that. The character was, I won't go as far as saying the character was superfluous to the storyline, but it kinda was. Like, I'm sure if you could cut him out, it's possible to cut him out of this movie, like in a way. But again, I think the idea what he was going for is that he's the new Nebula. That's how I
Yes,
feel
yes.
about it. Yeah. So
And I absolutely, absolutely, absolutely loved how Adam came to save Peter Dread. When I
yeah, yeah, yeah,
saw
yeah, yeah,
that,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
know there wasn't a lot of people in the screening that I was, but I legit clap at that Dread because
Yeah,
I
not
legit thought that Peter was done for. And
yeah,
yes,
yeah, for
him
real. Like,
going back
could
for
it,
him
it
going back for the it wasn't a Walkman this time. It was
the Zune.
the Zune, right?
Yeah,
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 I get where you're coming from, right? With that scene,
mm-hmm.
right? But just Adam coming to save the day, boy, was just like,
Yeah, yeah,
wow, I
yeah.
did not see that coming. That one hit me
So
real hard.
I really thought, I did think, like, I was saying, all right, that was a misdirection for 2 seconds. I was like, all right, they're not killing Rocket, but they're probably gonna kill Peter or something. And the see face swell up and everything. And
Yeah,
it was a reference to like the first and second films. In both of the first and second films,
yeah,
he was
it
caught in space,
involved
right?
characters dying in space, and
Yeah,
the cold getting to
right.
them. Now. I really dug
Yeah,
that, right?
right, right.
Just to touch one last time on the High Evolutionary though. The gang up that the Guardians doing him, I
Yeah, buddy.
fucks with, boy. I was like, every punch, every kick, Gamora stab
Yeah,
to the chest. Every bit of that man deserved, boy. He was
yeah, boy.
such
Yeah, yeah,
a asshole, dread. He deserved
yeah,
that ass whooping, boy. I clap at that shit like, fuck
yeah,
you,
for real. Like,
motherfucker. You deserve all that
yeah,
shit. Even right
yeah,
down to
for
his
real. Like,
face getting ripped off. And by the way,
right.
I
Well, that's
love
from
that in terms of character development. Like,
yeah, the flashback.
like
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
with his face, almost coming off and him kind of having to stick it,
Right,
stick it
piecing all
together
back
pretty much.
together.
Yeah, I thought that was
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
But him, that piece of skin getting ripped off too. I love
yeah,
that. I fucks with that, right? Um,
yeah.
the side characters quickly, right? I was a little let down that we didn't see more Ravagers, man. We saw them in part two. Like Stallone was
Yes.
there.
Stallone and right.
Michelle
She
Yeoh
wasn't
was
there
in the
at all.
second one. She wasn't
Right.
there. But I was like,
At
we
all,
only
right. I
seen,
thought so, yeah.
and Vin Rames wasn't there. We only saw
Yeah,
Stallone's
like they couldn't
crew.
get the cameos.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
they couldn't
only
get the
yeah,
cameos,
we only
yeah.
saw Stallone's crew. I was like, ah man, come on,
Yeah, so
man. I wanted
Stallone
to
and
see more Ravagers, bro.
I think that
Ah.
was Miley Cyrus also with the robot girl. I
Oh,
think that was also
okay,
Miley Cyrus.
but I
I
saw the
think so.
robot Gale. I forgot. We forgot the character's name. Yeah, like I said,
Yeah.
Stallone's crew was in the end of the second one, and
Right.
it was a letdown. Well, all of them actually, but it was a letdown that we only saw that group. Man, I wanted to see the others. Like I
Yeah,
thought
yeah,
that
yeah.
they would all unite because of Yondu's death. By the way, points for bringing back
Yeah.
Yondu for this that one moment.
Michael Rooker cameo,
Love
yeah.
that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Also Cosmo. They actually made Cosmo work, right?
I think. Yeah.
They make it a thing. That's all I say, right? Because
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
it was there. It's
who was
Miguel
that? That's
Maria.
Borat daughter?
Miguel Maria
Yeah.
Bakalova. She was there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Right.
I think they set this up in this film here. Cosmo have psychic powers apparently. Okay,
Right.
because
Right.
I last time I saw Cosmo was in the holiday special, right? And also points for reminding us of the holiday special in the end credits. Okay, if you remember from the second film, they always have like these snapshots, right? Yeah, you saw one of them with Kevin Bacon. I was like, all right. Yeah,
Right.
I like that, right? But yeah, I think this is the first time we see Cosmo with psychic powers, though, and I thought like, okay, she have psychic powers, all right. But how they make it work in the end, though, with trying to help free bring
Yeah,
the
yeah,
children
yeah.
and the animals from the
Yeah.
to nowhere. I thought that was great, right?
Yeah.
Even the moment involving oh gosh, I forget in Sean Gunn's character, right?
Yeah,
Kraglin,
sorry,
right? Kraglin.
Kraglin, right, yeah.
Yeah,
Kraglin.
yeah. The moment with him learning the arrow, yeah,
The arrow
I
properly,
thought that was
yeah.
fantastic. How it pays off in the end, that
Yeah.
was great, right?
Yeah.
But again, you know what I mean? All right, so yeah. I really
Something
dug how they incorporate those characters here.
something I don't think this is a coincidence. So I thought it was kind of interesting with the whole animal stuff. So there's an old comic. What's the name of this comic, boy? We Tree or WE3 or something like that,
Uh-huh.
where that was kind of like deliberate, right? Like because I think somebody online pointed this out. I swear, no, I think right. So I saw this on Reddit where is somebody pointed out how Grant Morrison's it reminded Grant Morrison like Cosmo and the rabbit was robot parts now.
Hmm.
And that kind of little design, deliberate, and then I realized, oh yeah, James Gunn is probably doing a Grant Morrison version of Superman. So I think it have a little overlap there, something. I ain't really sure. But there's an old comic with cybernetic animals, right,
Okay.
or something along those lines. So you can look it up. And it's a Grant Morrison comic, and it's pretty good. And then another thing, it's something I don't know if you noticed, but the high evolutionaries hench people, the little two side people who was helping him out in the lab, they look like Chronica from Mortal Kombat, right?
I should I should
Yeah, look it.
yeah I should look it up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
look it up. Tell me they look like Chronicle from Mortal Kombat. Like, okay, that's I don't know what happened. Whatever. Yeah,
Right.
that's about it.
So
Yeah,
so
but
so so we
yeah,
wrap it up in a few, right? So
sure. Yeah.
yeah. So where the Guardians go from there, you know what I mean? I
Well,
really
yeah,
appreciate, right? In
yeah,
terms of well, Mantis in particular, wanted to learn more about herself. I thought that was great.
yeah. hmm
Um, and of course, Peter, returning home, and it was
Going
really,
back right.
yeah,
Yeah,
really
yeah,
strong moment with him. Reunited with his granddad. I thought that was really
yeah.
great, right? But what really surprised me though, and you kind of saw it coming if we've followed the series. But I love how it kind of comes full circle. Rocket, becoming the
Yeah.
leader of the Guardians, right?
The,
In
the new
particular,
Guardians.
part
Yeah,
two, you saw
yeah,
that real conflict between him and Peter. Just like, oh, I'm running this ship. Like literally, is a moment before they crash land onto
yeah,
I think it's the Ego's planet. Yeah, what I mean, I'm a better pilot than you, right? So you saw
yeah. They're
from
taking
there,
over.
like,
Yeah.
oh, what I mean, I could do this better than you, right? I think they hint that they show it in one of the Avengers films, whether it's Infinity War or Endgame. I can't remember which one, where they're just kind of fighting over who's the better pilot or whatever it is. I think they did something like
Right,
that,
right,
right?
right, right.
That was really interesting there, right?
No, the captain. The whole
The
point is who's the
captain, right?
captain. Because
Yeah.
when Thor is there, I'm the captain, but you're not the
Yes.
captain. That black, yeah, that whole thing. Well,
Yeah.
but they come full circle with it at the ending, and it's like, yeah, they give it up to Rocket, and Peter, kind of comes back home. They sort that out,
Yeah.
and then we get to see the quote unquote new Guardians, and what they do with that,
Yes,
I find out
yes.
pretty cool.
Yeah,
Right, as I
it,
say,
it is it is one of those over the top moments,
yeah,
no offense though, but those what you call it by those rampaging, those stampeding creatures kind of
yeah,
remind me of them goats from Thor: Love and Thunder, which, yeah,
right,
the first time
right,
I saw it, I laughed my ass off. The second time, I
yeah,
kind of cringed, but yeah, it kind of remind
yeah.
me of those goats for a bit, you know what I mean? But in terms of, okay, this is where these
I
characters are here now, that was
right.
great, yeah.
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind if we get like a quick series with them, just a series, just
I
a
think we
six
could get
episode one.
that. Knowing
I can
James
get that. I
Gunn,
can live with
we
that. Yeah.
probably might we could get a special. Not another holiday
Right.
special, but we could get a special. Because remember the first one
Right.
was on Nowhere and on Earth, but this one could be, yeah. Let me just see what these new Guardians are
Yeah.
about, right?
Because
Uh,
the new girl, because the girl, one of the girls who was supposed to take over a new planet, which the high evolutionaries planet. No,
right. This is
she's like
I
hero.
believe her name is
Martha.
Filer.
Right, Phyla Bell, right?
Filer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't know that. I
Martha.
just seen it on Wikipedia. So like, wow,
No,
okay.
I know the characters. I know the characters Martha. So I know it was like, wait, this supposed to be Martha because she have like kind of Captain Marvel-y powers, no? Something along those lines.
Right, and I've seen
Um.
that she actually did appear in Captain Marvel, right? So look at that, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
no problem. Right. So
And,
yeah.
and as you mentioned, well, that actually was the mid-credit scene where we saw the new Guardians.
Right.
The
Right.
post-credit scene, however, was pretty interesting, right? So while I
Yeah.
don't remember all the dialogue, what I do like about it is that it's nothing too flashy or spectacular or
No.
saying, oh, this
Just
is what's going to happen next. It's just,
it's just a ad.
it's
It's just
just
a
Peter.
serial ad. It's a serial ad.
Yeah, it's pretty much Peter just kind of adjusting to, the real world, right? So I just
Yeah.
love that, his grandfather is actually reading a news report, which just so happens to be about Kevin Bacon, right? And what happened with
Right.
him
Right.
in the
Right. Right.
holiday
Right. Right. Right.
special. And,
Yeah.
I just like how the grandfather is just like, what? I don't want to hear about any normal shit because clearly that's not what I'm about, right? So I love that. I love just how subtle it is, but just like, yeah, look at the weird shit that is going on Earth right now, but you didn't know that, Peter, because you was in space for, I don't know, like decades, right? Like how
Yeah.
much? Like not 2.5.
Yeah. 30-some years.
But yeah, about
About that.
34 or 35 years roughly you was in space, right? So yeah, now you're back here, and now you're gonna learn now that there's been some weird shit going on, right? And this is even this is even after Thanos came and did this thing, right? So I admire
Yeah.
that. I love the end where it says I think it's what it is, the legendary Star Lord will return or something along that
Yeah.
line. Just paraphrasing here, right?
Yeah.
So in closing, this show really amazed me, boy. I was not
Yeah.
sure what to make of it going in. It was overwhelming to me, in my opinion. Watching it for the first time, in terms of just how far the emotion levels went. Like when it was dark, it was really dark, but not too dark and mean spirited. Kind of,
Yeah.
you're trying to scare children and make them wet their pants, kind of way, right?
No,
But more
it felt
like,
like an 80s film. It felt like a old 80s film. Like a lot of 80s films would have make the R, That's what it felt
Yes,
like.
yeah.
It felt like an
Oh,
80s PG. It
yes,
felt like
yes,
an
yes.
80s PG
You know what
film.
it reminds me
Yeah,
of though?
yeah,
Sorry to cut you there. It reminds me of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, where it's like,
right.
all right, we really want to push, like we really want to put our characters to the ringer to the point that there's gonna be some dark shit, some unapologetically dark shit, right?
Yeah.
But before I get to written though, I was shocked when I heard that F bomb though. Like when I hear Peter
Yeah.
say, "Get in the fucking car." I'm like, I would, okay. All right, that is some X-Men Days of Future Past
No,
kind
that
of shit,
cracked me
like
up,
you know
man.
the whole fuck off moment that Wolverine did back then.
No, that
It
was in
kind of
that was in first class. Yeah.
first class, right. It kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
remind
yeah.
me of that though. But I was
Yeah.
like, all right, James, all right, creative control, okay, do your thing, right?
Yeah.
I swear, I hear Nebula drop a F bomb too. It was during
Nah,
that
I
argument
remember.
scene between her and well Mantis and Drax, right? But I know they
Right.
say frickin' a lot, frickin', right? But I
Right. Right.
swear she say fuck too, right? But I could be wrong.
Okay.
But yeah, when I
Right.
hear again the fucking car, like all right, Peter, like men real piss you off, Dre. Like yeah, we getting, yeah, it's a good thing you bring up 80s, right? Cause yeah, the way this really does feel like a revenge story, like like yeah, where my mouth actually, as you see in 80s, License to Kill, the James Bond film, right? Oh,
Okay.
my friend is left for dead, so now I'm on a dark path of revenge, man. It kind of feels like that, right? But not in a forceful kind of way. It really does feel like it is part man-child Peter, part responsible Captain Peter trying to deal
Yeah.
with this, and he just goes about it really like head first, like headstrong, like yes, I am going to kill you. I am going to get into this place. And I'm gonna just destroy shit, right? Just that mere moment with him, like just attacking the scientist at the lab, like literally
Right.
jumping out the window with him. I'm like, wow, boy, this is how far you're going to go with this, way.
Yeah, that was
Jeez,
funny.
boy.
Yeah.
Again, that's some like 80s death wish shit that you want, boy.
Yeah.
Wow, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But yeah, it is a where the show takes its characters, boy. It really surprised me, it shocked me, it overwhelmed me, and it just excited me, man. I really do need to see this again though, because I really
Yeah.
do feel like there was a lot being thrown at me. But again, last thing I'll say about James Gunn, just repeating myself here, it's just how that man has a steady hand in all of this insanity. Just amazes me, man. I don't know how this guy does it, even with all the stuff that he has to do going forward with the DCEU or the
Yeah.
revamped version of that though. I don't know how
I
this guy
am
does it,
I
boy.
am very
Wow.
listen, I was a big fan of the man before, and this really show it up like if he look like he ain't slowing down anytime soon. And
Yes,
look,
boy.
I really hope that Superman gone. I have high hopes for that Superman now.
Yeah, definitely,
So
right? So
yeah,
I'll wrap up here. Just the energy this man puts into it, though, and through it
yeah,
all, you could tell that he really cares about these characters, right? And he knows that his audience does cares the same way, just as much as he does, right? So I'll say
yeah,
this, right? If you've just pretty much been fed up of the MCU at this point in time, I would still say check this one out, because it
yeah,
doesn't, like, you don't even need to know about everything between Endgame to this to understand what's going on. You just need to familiarize yourself or remind yourself of what happened with the first two, right? But that being said, though, if you're just pretty much done with the MCU as a whole, yeah, this show is not gonna make you a believer anytime soon, right? But if
right,
you've been loyal, even with the ups and downs, though, this is absolutely gonna take your breath away, though. I will say, and yes, this is easily, without a powerful power, one of the best MC movies you've gotten so far, right?
yeah,
But I really do need to see this over again, and then I could see how high I could rank this, right? But I could tell for sure, I could say without a shadow of a doubt that this is up there for sure, man. So rating wise, I
yeah,
talked long enough about this. Lighter, decent 4.5 out of 5. Hell of a way to end off a masterful trilogy, and you really have to thank James Gunn for this, though. You have to just applaud this man for just being able, just to say it in a nutshell, to just take his creativity and just insane vision, boy, and just make it totally work, boy. For us to care about a walking tree and a raccoon dread, right? This is just testament to just how great of a filmmaker and a writer, I should say, James Gunn is, man. So I can't wait to
right.
see what he does with the DC EU content going forward. But yeah, this movie here, Volume 3, is the real deal, man. Definitely need to see this again. So yeah, final thoughts on Return.
Yeah, 9 out of 10.
Nice, nice,
I
nice.
did not expect to enjoy this as much as I did. It was so smart and well done. Just again, the polished it. It does everything comes together so well. It have a couple little problems I have here or there. Again, the stuff with Warlock was a little weak. I felt the music stuff could have tied together a little better. But that's about it, Dread. I just loved this movie, Dread. I did not think this would have been as hard as it was, but it was. And yeah, James Gunn, you really needed to this. I can't be mad at any of this shit. As I say, yeah, High Evolutionary is kind of a better Kang than Kang. I mean, that's kind of the
Yeah.
big takeaway from me with that. But yeah,
And I
I
just want
did.
to make one quick point, Rob, before we sign off, right? There were points, right, when I was just watching High Evolution, I was just thinking to myself, just going back to the gap of time between films, right? It would have been great, right, if the High Evolutionary, if he was like the main body to follow up after Thanos instead of Kang,
Yeah,
right? And
right,
well,
right.
especially what's going on here with Jonathan Majors.
Yeah,
I
whatever. I
mean,
don't.
yeah,
The thing is,
you know.
we never see him. We never see him like die though. Like I don't think he died, right? He just was he's taken, and I think he was just kidnapped. I forget what was his final fate in the at the end of this one, exactly. But I just assume he is on nowhere with them, or something along those lines, right?
Right.
Because he didn't, because he said he's not gonna die, but I don't think they would have left him to die as well, right? So whatever.
Yeah.
'Cause Rocket make it a big thing of not to kill him at the end,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
so that was the whole thing. Anyway, whatever. But yeah, I thoroughly I love what they did here with this. Akabi Maruta, loved it. Pacing was excellent. It bounced off quite well overall for me. And
Yes.
yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, Jared. It was like really excellent. Didn't it, one easily one to me it goes up very high in the ranking of the MCU. And for something this late to come in to be ranked that high, was just kind of a marvel unto itself. No pun intended. Yeah. This was excellent. Loved it.
Yeah.
I'm more likely going back to see this sometime this week. Probably on the cheap Tuesday. Cheap Tuesday. I'll go and see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it. Yeah.
I need to see this again though, but I'll close
Yeah.
with this. I could see myself hitting IMAX to see this, because no, I didn't see
Yeah.
it in IMAX. I went to Caribbean
Okay.
Cinemas because it was right
Right.
there, like literally right there, relatively, compared to
Right.
IMAX. But I could see myself watching over there, man, But yeah, for
Right.
sure, you could expect to see this on our best stuff for sure, man. So yes, there is hope in the MCU after all. So unless you genuinely just throw up your hands and surrender and give up on all things MCU, if you've been a supporter from day one, yeah, this one is gonna be for you, man. Right? So yeah, absolutely love this film.